It's scary season, so I wanted to build some monsters. First up, and the one that's going to get the most attention, is this. She's Tsunakake Baba, also known as the Sandwich or Sand-Throwing Hag, a yokai from the manga Gegege no Kitaro, which I've never read, but I found this, as it happens, whilst I was in Japan just over a year ago, and I picked her up. I think it's a reissue of a Dayusha kit from years past, but unlike so many reissues, it's very cleanly cast and there's very little flash on it. The age of the original, if it is so, shows in the complete lack of alignment tabs or anything really to match everything up. But it goes together fairly obviously. There aren't that many pieces. I initially put it together in a bunch of parts and then sanded seams down and put a bit of filler in before I assembled the head and the body separately. The base represents a small pool that Tsunakake is standing in, and as it stands, she'd just be sort of floating on the water, which looks a bit odd. So I built up a small island for her and coated it in stone, and then hit everything with primer, and then I went in and painted everything. I glued her feet in place right from the get-go so that they blend properly into the island. After painting everything, giving it a few different layers, bit of dry brushing, all of that, I added some water to the pool. This is Woodland Scenic's water effect, and I put in 2 layers to get it as deep as I wanted. Baba herself was painted in cream to give it a nice off-white start, and then I went over with the aid of the wet palette and added in a little bit of shading. I went a little bit too far and I ended up putting on some dark wash, which, as you'll see at the end, is a little bit too obvious. The base colour for her face was suitably unhealthy, and I went for a sort of relatively drab brown shade for the hair, and then it was a case of just building it all up with darkening in the shadows and highlights everywhere else. I'm still not a great figure painter, but I'm getting a little bit better with every time I try. A few grass tufts and a little bit of scatter added the final bits of life and detail to the base, and then she was glued in place. But you can't really just have one ghost for Halloween. So I had a look around and I found a bunch of other strange figure kits that I bought whilst I was over in Tokyo. So we've got Hysterical Mini, 2 Kaiju, very old Kaiju kits, and the absolute terror that is Cinema Roll. I wasn't going to do as detailed a painting job on all of these, so they were thrown together in 1 or 2 quick sessions, and then I decided to have a play. This prawny kaiju monster thing appears to be a model of another model, because it includes a model of the motor and wired battery pack that will go in the full-size version of this. I left them out in the end and still had trouble getting the 2 parts to fit together properly. It got painted in clear red, which is a heavily red tinted varnish that I picked up years ago and then never really figured out what I was going to do with it. But it works really well to get the effect I was hoping for, of strange shimmering body with hints of red everywhere. The other kaiju was this strange beastie with antennae, which has a wind-up motor inside it and sort of ambles happily across the table when I wind it up. It needed a little bit of adjustment once the body was closed up, just to free up the legs and make it move again. And then a bit of black in the indentations and tears in its skin, followed by dry brushing with a few colours. Again, it's a toy. It's a toy that you glue together, so it's never going to be a super detailed thing, particularly with the winder sticking out the side and all of those little details. But the dry brushing and the other painting gave it a little bit of more depth than it would previously have had. Cinema roll went together fairly easily. I could have spent longer filing down the seams on this one, but it's a simple little mascot kit that I just glued up and then primed black and then painted in various shades of brown. Not very evenly. It's not meant to mimic any particular animal's pattern. I was just using the last of the paint off the wet palette. Last, and definitely not least, is Screaming Minnie, which should, on the right angled embankment, walk. She's got a weight in her head and the legs that wobble back and forth, and at 10 degrees incline she should amble forwards, but I think she's drunk. She keeps falling over. I just did a little bit of dry brushing of one of the shades of brown across her face to give the skin a little bit of tone, and some washes in the indentations to hint at almost cartoon-like lines that she's been drawn with. Painted her glasses black first, and then a bit of burnished gold, and finally some pink on the little pearls down the sides. And then she was done. Hysterical Minnie and Cinema Roll were a little creepy as were, but they needed something else, so they got blood. And there you have it. 5 little monsters for Halloween. And a year on from my trip to Tokyo. A reminder for me, because that's where they all came from. Treats only this Halloween, I hope. No tricks for anybody. Enjoy the candy if you get any. And until next time, have fun modelling.